Although I started to accept the tapes and books, the functions were still a problem for me. Not that I didn't want to leave the children with anyone, but just the fact I didn't know anyone locally who could babysit and didn't have any family who were nearby. The truth of it was I hadn't really tried to find anyone who could babysit. As I said, we just didn't have the money to pay out. So Steve ended up going to the functions on his own and would always arrive back buzzing with excitement, which annoyed me immensely, and I would soon put a dampener on his enthusiasm. But when we eventually hit 3% in the May, Steve insisted I go with him to the monthly seminar and rally in Portsmouth, and we persuaded Steve's sister to babysit, although she lived 2.5 hours away. I didn't exactly go along kicking and screaming, but rather grudgingly. I felt really uncomfortable about the whole thing. But after being around all our upline, seeing all the recognitions, the excellent speakers, and just the overall excitement of everyone that was there, I started to visualise what this business could offer. Although I did say to Steve at the time that he would never get me up there on stage for recognitions, let alone speak. And I'm sure most people feel like that at first, but because of the brilliant self-development programme we are all part of, you grow in confidence every step of the way. After that first seminar and rally, I endeavoured to go to every function I could. I asked friends if they knew of reliable babysitters and built up a small list of people I could call upon at any one time, and found that if we bought our next month's tickets at the function, we had no excuse but to make sure we had a babysitter organised. We started to work together as a team and listen more to our upline, who were always there for us and who we have grown to love and respect. And gradually we moved up the levels. But in the September, when we just reached 12%, I took the decision not to go to the free enterprise function, as I had organised to take my mum and children away for a week to see an aunt who was not well. Now, during that week, I didn't listen to one tape or open a book. And the result of this action was that Steve had moved on in the business because of the power of the free enterprise function, while I had come to a grinding halt. Everything involving the business started to be a chore. Even downline noticed I was not terribly positive. But luckily, a monthly seminar and rally was looming at Wembley. And as soon as I got amongst all the positive people at that function and listened to the speakers, I suddenly felt back on track again. This business can be like a minefield, but our leaders in this business, Pat and Greta, Jerry and Randy, and all the other diamonds and emeralds, have paved a way for all of us. If you go off track, you're heading for disaster. Luckily, though, the business is forgiving too, and we can all learn by our mistakes. I certainly learned and have never missed a function since. It's so important to go to every function you qualify for, and our upline always told us the most important meeting to attend is the one you really don't want to go to. Another of my personal struggles with this business was product pickup before we were put on warehouse delivery. Because Gary, our sponsor, was just over 2 hours away, I used to drive to Colchester with the children in the back along the exciting M25. On a good day, they would sleep most of the way. Otherwise, I had to bribe them with goodies to keep them quiet. I would pick up the products and tools from Gary's flat, and then at a pre-arranged time and place meet our distance leg to hand over their products and tools. Now, quite often this was done at a well-known supermarket's car park at Ipswich, which on reflection perhaps wasn't the most suitable place to exchange. We did used to get some rather strange looks, I must admit. And the tape of the week was my lifesaver on these days, as it kept me focused on why I was spending a day driving up and down the A12 and M25. Even at this point, I wasn't convinced the business would work for us, although I did it anyway. I knew the business was helping Steve overcome many challenges and setbacks in obtaining a job. And although I didn't realise it at the time, it relieved a lot of the stress of our financial situation, as we still had the 2 houses and neither would sell. But the business was giving us a direction of where we were going. The car became my university on wheels, and our upline would say to us, pretend your car won't start unless you switched your cassette tape on. Nowadays, our eldest son, who is now 6, won't let me drive anywhere unless I have a business tape on, as he calls it. And recently, on a tape of the week by Ian and Jean Lawson, Jean mentioned about some people who quit the business. And Jason said out loud, how silly, why would anyone want to quit? He's got a great attitude already. Dream Weekend, January 1992, was fast approaching. Steve and I set goals to reach 15%. We retailed products and went car booting to be able to afford to get there. Steve and I really don't accept money excuses lightly for not going to functions. If the dream's big enough, the facts don't count. Our bank balance at the time was so red it reflected in the body language of the bank manager, who was none too positive. One book that we found so helpful while we were under such financial pressure was Tough Times Never Last, Tough People Do by Robert Schuller. It kept us focused and determined to move on. We just kept looking at where we were going and not where we were. Dream Weekend with our upline diamonds, Bill and Les O'Brien, was even better than we anticipated and was certainly a real turning point for me. After that weekend, I knew the business would work for us if we worked as a team and put 100% effort into the business. A tape of the week that came out around that time by Polly Hartise, called From Your Head to Your Hands to Your Heart, crystallised a lot of things for me. When you see the business, it's in your head. When you start working the business, it goes to your hands. And when you start helping the people and allow the business to be part of your life, you realise the business isn't a pipe dream and it will go into your heart. And it's at that point you realise you can never give up on yours and other people's dreams. I also found myself making another goal at that Dream Weekend. After watching the recognitions and seeing all the Emerald ladies wearing their gorgeous glittery dresses, I decided I needed a sparkly dress desperately. So I made that one of my personal goals. Of course, we had to go Emerald first for me to get one. After that weekend, I started to feel much more in control of where we were going. Feel the fear and do it anyway became my philosophy. In the February, I started doing the colour consultancy clinics. Originally, I didn't want to get involved with the CCCs, but I had 4 downline ladies who had every intention of going on the training, and there was no way I was going to let them go without me. And although I was terrified at first, I practiced self-talk before going to do a clinic, which helped me to overcome my fears. Each one I did became easier, just like showing the plan, and it helped me also feel more involved in building the business, as I was building friendships with downline ladies. You will hear it said, build a friendship and you'll build a directship. Also, I found the CCCs were an excellent way of finding customers, as I did have a hang-up about the retailing to start with. Although I was very fortunate on picking up one particular customer, I was paying in cheques one day at the bank. One cheque happened to be from Amway. The cashier said, "Are you an Amway distributor?" I wasn't quite sure how to reply, as I thought she was going to say I needed a business account. But instead, she said she loved the products and could I get her a gel oven cleaner. I nearly fell over backwards. And the following week, I delivered her oven cleaner, and she proceeded to give me orders for 5 other ladies in the bank, and I still service them today. Steve and I just did... Steve and I just did whatever we had to do to go direct. If it meant driving the miles, that's what we did. I still remember driving home from a distant CCC, and it was after midnight. I heard a tape blare out, "There's only 2 types of people on the road after midnight, drunks and directs." Well, I knew I wasn't drunk, so obviously we're going direct. And we hit silver in the May and fully qualified as directs in November 92. And now in March 94 we hit the pearl level. But please don't look at us as though we've arrived, especially if you're just getting started in the business. It's just that we've been in the business a bit longer than you have, that's all. It's through the adversity we have faced has come an opportunity which is now equal and is going to become a much greater benefit to what we had. In some respects, we are grateful that Steve was made redundant that first time over 3 years ago, because I doubt if we would have looked at this business in the same way. We've had some challenges in this business and some heavy AMA fights, but as Caroline Galeska says on one of my favourite tapes, the prize is bigger than the price. This business is just hard enough to separate people who really want it from those people who think they do. I knew we desperately wanted to be out of debt. In fact, get out of debt is like a burning desire Steve and I both have. Our second house was finally sold in December 1993 after being on the market for 3.5 years. Although the bridging loan was frozen after 18 months, partly due to Steve's skills with people negotiating with the Building Society, it was still quite a stressful time for us, to say the least. But through the constant help, love and support from our upline, and especially the financial guidance we have had, we are now bang on target to achieve our goal of getting out of debt. Our bank manager can't quite grasp how we've done it. He sees no overdraft anymore, you see, but he will be finding out very soon in the form of an ad pack. There are so many hidden benefits with the business which you don't always see to start with. The wonderful friendships you make are very special. We have made new friends and have been reacquainted with old friends, and now I feel very fortunate to be part of a great group of people. Also, our children have benefited from the positive environment they are being brought up in, and really enjoy having people come to the house for the business. They are becoming goal-orientated, and our eldest has said he has every intention of being a diamond when he's old enough. Even Jason's teacher has said he's a real leader in the class, and I heard Steve say to himself, "That's my boy." And a word that Jason won't let Matthew say now is can't. He tells Matthew there is no such word as can't. You can if you want to. In the past, we've had comments about keep leaving the children with babysitters, but we took the decision to make our children the reason for building the business, so we can give them a secure and bright future. And because of the business, I now don't need to work a full-time job, so I'm always there for them during the day, which in our minds is much more important than in the evenings when they should be in bed asleep. We are now looking to the future with confidence and anticipation. Just having the peace of mind of no money worries is worth so much. Imagine being able to go to exotic places with the family when you want to, going shopping with an inch of money whenever you feel like it, being able to buy branded food products and not feel guilty, being able to pay your bills knowing your checks won't bounce, to be able to give to charities freely and helping the less fortunate, to pay back to your parents for all their hard work, love and encouragement over the years, and generally making this a better world to live in. Just imagine. The Pearl level is just another stepping stone towards success and freedom, and is certainly achievable for each and every one of you who commits yourself to this business. Just dream really big dreams and go out there and make it happen. Forget the past and look to the future. Remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. I've really enjoyed speaking to you today. You've been a great audience. I'm going to hand you over to someone who's very special to me. Here's Steve.
Okay, well, wasn't she brilliant? Well, it was only a short time ago that Angela said that she'd never stand up on stage, and I really think I have to thank the system for helping her develop the confidence to speak you all to today. Well, I was born in Newcastle. I was the son, I'm the eldest of two brothers and three sisters. My father was in the armed forces and was frequently posted overseas, which for us was great, as we travelled to many different countries. My childhood was spent in Malta, where I spent a lot of time on the sand, and in the sea, and we lived there for 3 years before returning to the United Kingdom for a short period before my father was posted to Germany. We lived in Newcastle until Dad was allocated some army quarters and then joined him later to reside in a village in Ham near Dortmund. I went to Windsor Boys' School, which was a boarding school for 4 years, and I had a tremendous time and I had some tremendous experiences. In 1970, the military posted us back to the UK and we settled into Colchester, where I went to a local school to finish my O-levels. The O being rather prominent because I hardly got any. From school, I landed on my feet winning a 5-year apprenticeship with the leading newspaper printers in Colchester. And then after 5 years and 2 years at night school, I then went on to work as a keyboard operator to earn a living. It was during that time my father decided to give up on the army and then went to live in Clacton-on-Sea, where he started a restaurant with my mother. Angela mentioned that it was during my final year at college that I first saw her. And after some discreet inquiries through the Old Pals network, you know what I mean, guys? I learned that she was living in Clacton and wasn't seeing anybody. On my way back from college, I plucked up the courage to call her from the local phone box. The conversation went like this. "Hi, I'm..." To which she interrupted, said Steve Harvey, then hung up. Well, I was pretty surprised to her response, so I called her back because I was only trying to arrange an opportunity meeting, a game of tennis, honest. Well, my persistence paid off, and we met, and neither of us thought that game of tennis would be our best match we'd ever play. I got on quite well with Angela's parents, and I was always felt well and looked after by her mum, who fed me well, who was a brilliant cook. Her father was also very interesting too, and I recalled him during his days in which he mentioned that whilst at sea in the Second World War, the crew and he were suffering from malnutrition, but reflected on how they all had faith, knowing that everything would work out. He said, if there is any advice I can give you, always persevere in life. We didn't realise just how important those words would be today, and we'd like to thank him for his words of wisdom. We were to marry 4 years later, to the very day that we met, June the 21st, and it's a very significant date, as you'll hear. And I took Angela off to Florida for a honeymoon, and we had a great time. Now, after our first year of marriage, I applied for a position overseas to further my career. We discussed it, and I flew off to Dubai on New Year's Day on 1982. My 2-year contract turned into a 10-year spell in the Middle East, working firstly with an international publishing company specialising in telephone directory compilation, then going on to a magazine publisher as a senior executive for a few years later. We lived very well and had an extremely pleasant lifestyle, travelling around the world, visiting places like Kenya, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Singapore and the Philippines, to name only a few. Money was plentiful too, and during those years, however, we did make several investments playing for our future. A collector's Jaguar, which had always been a dream of mine, a Tudor-style detached house in Essex, and stocks and shares. Now, Dubai's lifestyle was one of the expatriates' best-kept secrets. Opportunities were plentiful. I refereed international football matches and had invitations to officiate overseas with hockey matches too. Our life couldn't have been better. Now, in 1987, Angela told me that she was pregnant. I wasn't happy when she told me, as I was not the most pleasant of people to be around when she told me the news. I started worrying about how we were going to cope without her income, how it was going to affect our lifestyle, and I really don't know how she put up with me, as I was really very, very hurtful. Well, we talked through my difficulties, and we worked things out for the better. And the truth was that I was scared at facing up to my responsibilities of being a father. And I finally came to my senses when I saw our first son, Jason, born a week just before Christmas, and he really did change our lives. Now, in 1988, my career took a leap forward, and I was approached to set up a graphic design consultancy in the United Arab Emirates. And I was excited at the challenge and received an excellent package of fringe benefits, including equity, residing in a superb Spanish villa with a swimming pool, and a nice Dubai suburb. Life was a beach. Well, that's where we spent most of our time, swimming on golden sandy beaches and having frequent barbecues. In addition to wining and dining with some of the UK's well-known celebrities and sporting personalities which were associated with my job. My position was managing partner, and with it came a wonderful opportunity to work with a European PJ on the Volvo Golf Championships at Dubai's Emirates Golf Club, and it was televised worldwide. I was also to work with world's leading golfers like Seve Ballesteros, Sam Torrance and Ian Woosnam, and many more. In 1990, so much happened for the company, we couldn't believe it, we couldn't put a foot wrong. The United Arab Emirates football team had just qualified for the World Cup finals in Italy, and we were to work with the Football Association in designing all of their marketing promotional material for that event to distribute to the FIFA representatives in Rome and Milan. It was during that project that the MD of the UK office, and also now our very close friend, asked if Andrew and I would like to return to the United Kingdom to set up a proposed London office to coincide with the 1994 open market in Europe. We were thrilled, as it had always been my dream to return to England and live in our dream home in Essex and provide Jason a good education. Unfortunately, we were asked to relocate between London and Bristol, so we had to put up our Clacton house for sale before returning. With only 4 weeks before returning, I was invited by the Football Association to attend the World Cup finals in Italy, and it was a dream come true. Despite the move, the MD said, as a PR exercise, I think it'd be very worthwhile going. I was flown, all expenses paid, for a 2-week trip to the finals, and I had a prime seat for the opening ceremony in Milan, followed by the opening match with Maradona's Argentina versus the Cameroons. It was just unbelievable. It had always been one of my dreams to attend the World Cup finals, and here I was. Now, we know that this business will enable us to do that again. If not for the World Cup finals, maybe at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, taking with some of the many friends we have, but in our own time and no one else's. Anyway, while I was living it up, Angela was packing up the villa. Got that sorted, didn't I? Our new home was being organised by the company while I was in Italy. We found a house in the village of Twyford, Berkshire, and we were excited at coming back to England after 10 years abroad. I returned from the World Cup finals to find Angela had done everything. Got that well sorted too. And we were now on our way, leaving many friends and many happy memories back in the United Arab Emirates. The other exciting news was that Angela was expecting our second edition due mid-December. We couldn't wait to get settled down in our home, as there was so much we both wanted to do, and the opportunity of returning to England couldn't have come at a better time in our lives. On my first day back to work, I learnt that the company hadn't finalised the bridging loan on our house in Twyford. They'd agreed to support us with a relocation package and assist totally on the bridging loan until the sale of our Essex property was concluded. After several meetings, they did agree to a 50% contribution. Still being owed a large sum of money, we decided to go through with the purchase of the house, a decision I took without ever getting an advice on the cost of a bridging loan. It was within 3 months of returning to the UK that our world fell apart, as Angela mentioned. The company had expanded with new offices in Bristol, Paris, Amsterdam, and on the surface looked great. Where have you heard that before? I asked the boss if everything was okay, in particular my position, to which he said fine. But he said, I'd like to meet you when you get back from my break to put you in the company, plans on the company's future. We met for lunch, and I asked how everything was going with the bank once again, to which he responded, the bank manager says, you've got to go. Well, I was pretty stunned and felt completely gutted after all I'd done for him. And I couldn't eat. I couldn't stomach anything at the time. But on driving back to the office, he said he would tell the staff that I resigned due to the difficulty of driving between Bristol and Twyford, and that I was to say nothing to anyone.